Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And Ron, this is episode 200 of the show. 200 episodes we've done. And right off the bat, we got some good news. In episode 201, I have a brand new host. Ron's out of here.
What?
Thank you. I'll be taking Ron's place. What a time to find out, Ron.
Screw you guys. I'm going home.
Oh, of course, we're only kidding. We're having a good time here. Episode 200.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah, the Dice podcast. We have a couple of guests on here tonight. Bringing them back out of the bullpen one more time. The creator of Pro Strategy Football, Kerry Batts. Thanks for coming back on the show, Kerry.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Always good to be with you guys.
And we got a whole bunch of stuff to discuss with Pro Strategy Football tonight, as the new release just come out a couple of weeks ago, I think it's been, or maybe a month ago, but we'll talk about that. And we have also Mike with the truck here, who likes calling me while I'm at Friendly's having my breakfast. We always did a live FaceTime. That would have been great. If I was by myself, I would have done it. I would have been sitting there having my Fribble and my milkshake at Friendly's. That was funny. But Mike from the truck is one of the modders in this game, so we thought we'd have him on too, so we can talk about the game and the modding, because this is one fantastic game, and but the mods really kind of push this game to its limits and make it really, really fun to play. Before we get going, ways to get a hold of us: digitaltodice.com is the website. digitaltodice.com. 978-751-DICE is the text line. digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digital-to-dice. So with all that out of the way, let's get right in. So I guess, Ron, congratulations. 200 episodes. We got
200. That's amazing.
You know, and again, we tell the story many times how we started this out. What was it, 4 years ago?
Yeah, 4 years in July.
4 years in July. Yep. And we just started to talk about games and didn't know where it was going to go from there. And next thing you know, a year went by and 2 years went by, and we just keep doing the show on a mostly weekly basis, and we try to come up with fun topics to talk about and have really nice guests like we have on tonight so we can talk about the games. And
for two of us who really aren't football people, we had Dave Cook on for episode 100. And we have Kerry Batts on for episode 200.
Right, yeah, jeepers, right? We try to save the episodes like that for the really good guests. I'm only kidding. All our guests are really good. I love having them. I love talking to the people that make the games. I like talking to the people that even play the games. Because that's what makes it fun, is just talking to people about doing what you like to do. So all right, so why don't we jump right into things here? So I got my notes here, and if anybody in the chat room, if you have any questions for Kerry or Mike about Pro Strategy Football, the new release 2024. So Kerry, let's start with you. What's new with the Pro Strategy Football 2024 version?
Well, quite a few things on the career side. One of the big things is the fact that when players are cut, they no longer just retire automatically. They're in the waiver pool, so they can be picked up that year or in subsequent years. Another one of the big things is that you can change coaches at any time during a game. That's fun to do because you can take over.
I've played around with that a lot.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
You kind of. And then one of the other big things in both career and season play is the ticker. The sports ticker. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to try that out.
Yes, I have. Yeah,
and that's very fully configurable, of course. And we added more sliders for handling injuries and fatigue. And one of the big things I wanted to do this year was to improve the AI. The AI has improved each year, and it's funny because I got a negative review this week because someone says your AI must be cheating. I just had to reply and say, I'm sorry you think that, because it's been a hard effort with a lot of input from a lot of people to improve it to the point where it's good enough that you think it's cheating. Because
it's dramatically improved over the last couple of years. I'm doing a football replay for the first time in a couple of years and using Pro Strategy Football as opposed to Second and 10 Interaction PC to do it. And a lot of the times I coach the offenses. So you switch from one team to the other with that. And I'm not changing the play calls a lot. Once in a while, I'll throw a wrinkle in, or if it wants to do a screen pass twice in a row, I don't do that. But really, I figured that I would have to call most of the plays or whatever. But no, I think I'm probably calling maybe 1 out of every 4 out of that. I mean, it's just seems to be really, really intuitive now.
Well, thank you. And, if you look at real life and you watch some coaches, and in the 2-minute offense, you're going to see them occasionally run a trap or a draw or a screen, and we may all yell, "What are you doing?" I remember TCU against Michigan last year. TCU ran it right down to the wire, and we were screaming at them because we live in Fort Worth that you guys are stupid, and they won. Like on the, I think that was the game where they won at the end. So I guess I was the stupid one. So so my game even will occasionally have you in the 2-minute offense. I try to do that, but often just really improve that 2 minutes, and that took several weeks and iterations with Mike and other testers. I'm trying to look at other things over here.
Let's stick with that for a second. The AI. Okay. I have found with this version, and not that it wasn't true in other versions, but I found more so in this version, I really feel like my decisions and play calling make a difference, or more. I should say more of a difference, because I'll be. Ron was streaming the other night, and he was just running his test game. I said, Ron, run a reverse, right? I said, run a reverse. The computer will never expect it. He ran a reverse, and he got a touchdown, and it was hilarious that we did. And I do that too. It's like, okay, do I call a draw here? Do I call a screen pass? And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but it feels like I can really coach the game and enjoy it. And there's the risk and reward, and I just feel like in this version here that my coaching, as bad as it is, I feel I have more of an input in that. Like the game reacts to my coaching a little bit. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, in fact, working on the engine was one of the big things this year, too, because I don't know if you remember, but last year I responded. One of the requests going into last year's version was people wanted the quarterbacks to run more. Well, they did, and you had Brady running a lot. So this year, especially worked with Lee and Apollo here, Mike in the truck. And we had to go through iterations because you wanted to be able to have someone like Cunningham get a lot of yards, but his yards are different than the yards that someone like a Tarkenton or Staubach may get. And so it was, again, several weeks to get that done better. And in the process, we also wanted to have players swapped in more, wanted to count fatigue more. The actual number of players, the number of plays that you play now is historic. If you beat a guy to death, it's going to start showing up. And if you don't rest him, you're going to pay a price for that. And so the engine was another one of the things that was revamped this year with the AI.
How do you design a game that, because of the mod community, now handles 83 seasons and many, many, many styles of football and get it plausibly right?
Well, you hit on the hardest thing, and in fact, Lee and I went through a couple of iterations where Lee was focusing on
Lee is who?
Lee Brenner. I don't know how to pronounce his first name. And he's done. He's one of those unsung heroes too that created so many of our past leagues, and he loves history, and so he wanted he was focusing on the 40s quarterbacks. And in the 40s, quarterbacks ran a lot. And they didn't just scramble because you didn't pass as much. They ran. And so we had to get that done. But then
Speak to the devil.
What happened? Oh, there he is.
I didn't want to interrupt you. I wanted to say hi to him, but I wanted you to keep going.
For the audio later, he came in and said, "Hey, guys," as Kerry was talking to him.
Yeah.
Well, I hope he heard me praise him because he deserves it. And listen, I've tried his patience because I'm making these changes. And remember, our game is ratings-based. It's not – I don't try to – exactly replicate a season. I don't see the fun in that. Instead, I try to say, are these players and team ratings enough? Can y'all say hi to Lee? Hey, Lee, what's up with you?
Lee.
Lee, we're going to have you on sometime, man.
We're going to do a mod show. We're going to call it the Mod Squad.
That's right.
Oh, there you go.
Lee, Mike, Dream Teams. So, we wanted Cunningham to get good yardage. We want some of the great running backs to have a chance to get 2,000 yards. But you don't want to be guaranteed. You just want to have a great chance. And to me, if I play, the Dolphins who went undefeated, 72, right?
Yes,
correct.
Then I should have a better chance of going undefeated with them than with most other teams. But it shouldn't be a guaranteed or it's no fun. And like you said, Dave, your play calling should make a difference. Injuries make a difference. Penalties, weather. So because it's ratings based, you're going to get some variance, And if we can keep it within 10, 15%, to me, we're doing our job.
So there's, of course, a great divide in the community. There are people who are accuracy, and they look at this game and go, "It's rating based. Can't possibly do what I want to do because I want Eric Dickerson to run for 2,154.2 yards, and there's no variance in that." So for those, just because it's ratings based doesn't mean it's not accurate. It's plausible. Right. That's the whole point, being plausible, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I get that criticism occasionally. I just feel like, be glad there are plenty of choices out there. There are games that try to do what you want. My game's not that game. My game, I want to be able to take the 75 Cowboys and win the Super Bowl. Although I've played Mike twice as 75 and 77 Cowboys, and I've lost both times. I'm never going to play him again. But
don't forget, I built the mod.
Yes,
I know it's intricacies.
Yes, as a Bengals fan growing up, I know who created the mods for those teams, Mr. Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
That's right.
It depends on the season, sir.
That's right.
Okay.
It depends on the season.
The one thing we talk a lot here on the show is fun versus accuracy, I guess you'll call it. If you play a game that is super fun, but the results are off the chart, then, but conversely, if you have the most accurate game right down to this and that, but it's not any fun, what good is that? So where do you kind of put the slider on fun and accuracy in your game?
Well, those are two separate things, right? So the engine should decide that the game is accurate. So if I call a trap on 3rd and 3, and I know you're going to have a man over center, I've got a pretty good chance of getting that first down because of the engine. That kind of makes it fun for me. And you gave it a great example a while ago. If I'm running off tackle, I'm running normal plays for a while, I know as the designer that the AI at some point, and it varies, but at some point is going to start keying on flow. Because I know they're going to do that, I'm going to throw in a reverse. Now, when you ran that reverse, if they were keying flow, you greatly increased your chance of getting a big gain there. So to me, the fun comes in, okay, I know it's going to be realistic. I know it's not going to cheat on me. So can I outcoach the AI, which thanks to people like you guys and other folks, has improved year after year. And then the other fun, I guess, is just some of the things we add in there, like how many I like watching a game occasionally. I actually took a college game. This was a version or two back, and I set it, used the scenario builder, which I don't know if you guys have ever used that. It's one of the unsung features in the game that I happen to love. And I set up a scenario where I knew they were going to go into overtime, and that game went 5 overtimes because it was cold.
Wow,
and that was fun. So to me, that's the balance: is you make it accurate, so you know you're not going to get cheated. You know that the results aren't going to be crazy, and then can you enjoy coaching the game or watching the game?
I do like being able to flip back and forth between the two teams in the game, because I like to play the offenses mostly, but it's not, sometimes I'll just play one team, but a lot of times I'll play this offense and swap to this offense, and I find that to be very fun. What I do is I was trying the automatic mode where you can kind of like hit the button and switch teams where you control, but I inevitably end up keeping the human control for both, and I pick the offense, and then the defense selects the defense automatically, and I just hit the button. I don't even look at it. I just hit the OK button. That's kind of how I play it, because I don't know. I don't want to see what they pick. You know what I mean? But sometimes when I'm controlling both teams, I may or may not call a timeout in a certain situation. Where there was one time I let the computer handle the defense, and they were calling timeouts. I'm like, I'm not sure if I would have called a timeout there. Not that it was right or wrong, but just my playing style. So I like having the option of letting the computer play the defense, or letting the computer just pick the defensive play, and then you can still decline penalties and do the timeout. So I really do like that. The people in the chat room, I'm going to post some comments in 1 second here. We got a few more questions before we post some of those, so don't go anywhere. We will get all the comments up here. One of the other things I noticed in this new version was the injuries. You guys have done some tweaking with the injuries. How long and less and more injuries. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that was discussed a lot the last couple of years too. And so again, working closely mainly with Lee on this, and the combination, we had that slider in there. So Lee would give me some feedback and say, well, I had to bump the slider down 1% to get realistic, or bump it up 1%. And so over time, I think we narrowed that in to where the default version is now good on injuries. I think we were having too many multi-game injuries, so I cut back on that. But there's a separate slider, so if you want that, I even made it possible, and I've done this before. I won't lie. I've even made it possible. Yeah, I'll allow injuries, but I'm not going to allow multi-game injuries, because I did that one time after losing Staubach for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Yeah, so there's a box you can check that says do not allow multi-game injuries, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Is there a button to reset injuries by chance?
So that's a funny question that you asked that. That is not in the game. That is something I do as a debugger. I never thought about that. Is that something you would like?
Well, I was playing, Ron, what team was I playing? I was at 86?
86, and he had Stanley Morgan miss half the year.
Yeah, Stanley Morgan went out in the first couple of weeks, and he was out for 8 weeks. He came back for the playoffs, but that's the Patriots' best receiver. And if I was playing the Patriots and they lost their best receiver in week 1, well, that kind of kills the replay for me. And I know the old school people, hey, well, you got to fight through it. Well, I want to have Stanley Morgan. That's why I chose this season and this team. And then I hit the button and said, do not allow multi-game injuries, but he had already been hurt, so that didn't affect him. So they played the rest of the season without him until the playoffs. I think he came back. But like I said, there are a couple other games that I play that do allow you to reset injuries. And sometimes just when they start stacking up, you're just like, oh, man, this is too much. I either quit or I got to reset the injuries and then get on with my fun. And then the fun versus accuracy, that's where that comes in, where I would lean more towards the fun on that.
So is this in a season or a career?
That was in a season.
Okay, because career will let you save and restore backups. I could add that to season as well, so that you save your season periodically, and then if you don't like something, you could go back to that backup.
That's an interesting idea too. Yeah.
Now, but let's follow up on this. What did you call it? Recover from injuries.
Reset all injuries.
So would that be team-wide or league-wide? Or
I guess it could be either one. I mean, if you were controlling a team, you might say, hey, I want all my guys to be free from injury going into the playoffs because I really want to see how they would do in the playoffs. Or maybe you'd say, let's reset all the players and see how they do, because you don't want to go into the Super Bowl with Montana hurt and Rice hurt, going up against whoever and their quarterback's hurt. You want to have the best versus the best, So
this gets into, you raise a good point. Sometimes there are things that are requested, and my thinking is sometimes, why would you do that? But my response is always, I don't care why you do that. If the users want that and it brings them fun, because I do that in games, right? Yeah. And like I said a while ago, I turn off multi-game after losing Staubach. And something I want to add, because one time he retired on me, I want to add the ability to unretire players.
Yeah, because you start turning it into a sandbox, which is so fun when you just control everything in a game and just about everything. Like I say, there's a hockey game I play, and I keep telling them, you need to get me the ability to tell guys not to retire because I want Gump Worsley playing until he's 50. And not retire when he's 43 or 44. I want to keep him playing, and he retires, and I can never get him out of retirement, So I'm like, you need to give me an option to keep, like I say, keep the guys playing,
I will add both of those things for next year because I've already thought about the one, and I love the idea on resetting injuries. Okay.
Let me see.
Mike, what's the challenge in getting a decade or an era of mods made? Because the game doesn't ship with all the mods for legal reasons. You and brag on the people who are on the teams with you doing this. What's the biggest challenge in getting those mods ready for a new version?
Well, there's multiple things to consider. When we build the mods, we want to be as historically accurate as possible. So I used to build mods for other games, but now a lot of stuff's already online, like Pro Football Reference and FootballDB.com. It's short for FootballDatabase.com. So we'll go through there. I mean, they have so much stuff listed. They have jersey numbers. Hello, Kerry's gone. Uh-oh.
Just keep talking, Kerry. I'll be back.
I hope so.
Yeah, so do we.
Yeah, you don't want the Mike in a Truck show.
Welcome back, Kerry.
Welcome back. You hit the wrong button, Kerry.
Sure did.
Shazam.
Go ahead.
So we want to be historically accurate. So, I mean, a lot of those websites, it's all public domain. So, jersey numbers and the college they went to. So we would shove whatever Kerry's engine was, we would shove all it in there. We try, we're human beings. We can make mistakes.
Right.
But, it's typographical errors, wrong jersey numbers, stuff like that. So we go through that. Lear Dream Teams, who's a big unsung hero, those guys have through the years been involved in the graphics, and they have built some absolutely amazing graphics. I mean, and they're like nailing stuff, the way the stadium looks, if it's got the old baseball diamond in it, what the end zones actually were, the midfield logo. And for those who are unaware, I don't know if it's in this year's version, but last year and the year before, we threw in Easter eggs. I talked to Lee about it, and we threw in Easter eggs. Like, for example, if you play the 68 Eagles in the snow, if you watch long enough, eventually when the camera's scrolling, you will see Santa Claus running for his life and getting snowballs thrown at him, like which they booed Santa Claus in 1968. So little things like that. We added as just little Easter eggs. And we were waiting for somebody to pop in and say, hey, look what I found. I found an airplane crashed in 1976 Baltimore in the stands, because that actually happened in a playoff game. We were trying to do that discreet, but nobody got hurt in real life. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done it. But like if you play 1990 in Philadelphia, you'll see ambulances because it was the body bag bowl. We didn't want to do the body bag game, but we were trying to do it in a kind way. Yeah. So with the ambulances, stuff like that. If you play the Cleveland Browns in, was it 2001? On the right end zone, there are beer bottles from Bottle Game.
The bottle game, yeah.
So little stuff like that, but you have to play the right team in the right stadium in the right weather conditions. But that was just added goofs that were put in. What was the name of the guy? The Rainbow Man he would hold up the signs. And,
the John 316 guy, right?
Yeah, him. He's in more than one stadium in the 70s because he appeared in more than one stadium. You just have to, you might see him in the stands. And I really wanted to get that guy in the Chicago Bears that, like, I forget, they kicked the field goal. They kicked the extra point, and he dove out of the stands. Remember on Monday Night Football, flying in the air and he caught it? I was hoping to get that in there too. But I don't know if at least as many of the Easter eggs are still there. Good, but I've just given away a lot. Snowblower game. Yep, there is. Since you mentioned it, 82 New England.
Yep.
You see a snowblower on the sideline. I really wanted Lee to draw a line that would be a curve at whatever the given yard line.
Oh, that would be hilarious to have that.
Yeah. I thought that would have been really, really funny. He put a snowblower. Same thing, but you have to catch it. That'd be more obvious. But anyway, when it comes to that, we were looking for historical accuracy. And as Kerry said, his game is rating based with one exception. He actually uses actual stats for special teams, kick, punt returns, field goal kicker, punter. And so we actually, unless we made a typographical error, we put them in there. So they're represented in the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually what they did. Like a number cruncher, some people wanted it to be. That's what this is. So I originally just made compilation mods, and Lee and Dree teams, I talked with them. They gave me the graphics, and then Lee started building seasons, and I kept building seasons. And before we knew it, we had everybody from 1940 to now.
Nice.
I mean, we had kept going and going and going. And I mentioned to Lee, let's just finish it. That way it's all there. So when it comes to ratings, though, you can have your opinion on ratings for any given player, but it also depends on the game engine. Because you may think somebody is a 9, and a 9 overdoes it in the engine. So you got to dumb them down to a 7, and it's fine. And people, well, Joe Montana should be a 9. I'm just making up an example. But to get the results, he's a 7. So
interesting. Yeah,
a lot of playing around to try to get the ratings close.
When you do when you rate a season, or when the mod team rates a season, is it based on an all-time number, or is it rated for that specific season?
The answer is yes and no.
Okay.
And here's why. I think Lee and I both wanted to go on an all-time scale to make them compatible so that you could accurately play a team from the 50s against a team from the 70s and get representation. Mm-hmm. The reason I say, and we did that, but the thing is, Lee and I are two completely different human beings. Mm-hmm. So what I do for ratings, he might do differently. So if you play a mod that Lee built and a team of a mod that I built, it may not entirely jive. In the given mods, the single seasons themselves, they're built to do that. Okay. So if it was just one person and built the whole thing, which is just, I mean, it's not going to, I don't see how it could happen, but Lee and I would divide and conquer when building single seasons.
So you raise a great question. First of all, I want to step back and thank Mike and Lee and Dream Teams, because before they jumped in, I forget when the first time was, a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. And I'm a programmer, and I was going brute force on creating the schedule each year. And I had these kind of blinders on, and these guys said, if you could somehow represent the league in a CSV format or some kind of format, and if you could represent schedules in a CSV format, and after I smacked myself in the head, why didn't I think of that? That's exactly what we did, and then they've run with it since then. I do want to answer Bernard's point about injuries. Yeah. I think it'd be pretty easy to click on a player who's injured and have a pop-up that says, recover him or something, or perform a miracle or something. And then we could do it.
Mr. Miyagi, Daniel-san.
And it's that vitamin B12 shot we talk about.
That's right. Now, you talked about the graphics are better, and I think they are too. And so going back to Lee and Dream Teams, one thing, I probably shouldn't give this away because I don't know if it'll work. We're investigating, we're evaluating, can we zoom in on the team and players next year? Maybe 2x, 3x, maybe a variable amount. Well, that means changing my code to follow it, because now instead of just horizontal, it's got to follow it multiple dimensions. But it also means they would need to probably recreate more higher definition fields. But they do such good work. I just wanted to throw that out there that if we can, we'd like to do that as well.
I've been streaming my games this year in 4K. So that tells you just how good the graphics are. That it's capable of streaming that in 4K. And
that's pretty cool.
YouTube will be billing me for the hours and hours of processing those videos after they are on Twitch.
Wow.
So, possible future feature, Kerry, we had a blowout game the other day, and someone said, well, can we cut away to another game? Now, I know that the game has the ability to sim games at the same time or sim games quickly and then reveal themselves. Is it possible to have those games going on simultaneously at the same time? And so let's say you have Oakland and Denver be a blowout and then go to the Coliseum to do the Cowboys. See, get your good side already. Bidding up the Rams as they always did at Christmas. Is that something that can be done?
Boy, that'd be a massive undertaking.
Okay.
So the way I kind of try to do that now is you simulate the first game, right?
Right.
But you haven't revealed it. Because you haven't revealed it, and because you're watching that ticker, they're kind of going on concurrently, right?
Right.
It's conceptually. Now, one thing I'm hoping to do next year is, this should be possible, is let you switch to watch that other game for a while.
That's what I'm talking about. Because
would you be okay with that approach where, hey, I might sim these 3 games, but now that they're completed, I'm going to, from a experience viewpoint, we can treat it as if they're not not complete. And you step in and you say, I want to watch the next several plays. Now, that leads into something else I'm thinking about. So to finish that, yes, one of the things I want to be able to do is to switch around and jump into different games.
Yeah, because
if you're coaching a game, when you come back, you're going to come back to where you left off, right?
Oh, okay.
Because let's say you're coaching and it's now the second quarter, 5 minutes left, and you go and you watch another game at the midway in the third quarter. Do you want the AI to quickly catch you up, or do you want to take back over where you were,
I think it depends. I mean, again, what Dave and I do is kind of unique to your player base because we stream those and turn them into productions as opposed to let's pull out the football game and play it. And so when you get a game that's a dud, last week, last Thursday, it was the Vikings and the Bears had the Vikings just absolutely destroyed.
I wonder if they did this, Ron. I wonder if, just throwing this out there, so you simulate the games, and so, like I said, at the end of the first quarter, I go to the studio. I go to our Sperry studio, and we check out, the highlights of the games, or at least the scores of the games, because those games have been simmed, so they're done, but you're following along with your game. Would it be possible to sim a quarter at a time? And just follow my thinking. So I play the first quarter. I go to the studio and we see the first quarter results. I play my second quarter. I go to the studio. We see the second quarter results. At the end of my third quarter, it's 45-0. Okay. Now all the other games has been simmed through 3 quarters. I would like to switch out of my game and go coach the Cowboys-Rams game, and then finish that fourth quarter out with a better game than what I had played. So I guess that's where we're kind of getting at. And so I didn't know if it's simmed a quarter at a time that you could switch out, but after you start the fourth quarter, it's too late. It's going to sim the rest of it.
So technically, you can do that now, except not using the studio. So let me tell you what you can do, and then let's think about, could we add that to the studio? So right now I'm coaching a game, and I coach it to the end of the first quarter. I then can switch to another game, and my game is saved where it was. I go switch to the second game, and I coach it to the end of the first quarter. I can go reload either game and take over, right? Or I can just say, you go finish it. Now, I think what you're saying is add that game to the studio. The only danger is, that game isn't complete, so...
But I'm just saying, so you're playing a game, it's 45-0 after 3 quarters, and you look, and you got the 76 Buccaneers tied with a team, and it's like, holy cow, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are tied at home maybe they might win a game here in 76. I'd like to go and coach that game. Can I coach the Buccaneers in that fourth quarter to win it? You know what I mean? And I know, like I say, it's asking a lot, but I mean, the ability to switch games, like I said, but you'd have to have that game partially simmed so you could see the score. That's the other thing. So you could say, hey, at the end of three quarters, here's the best game. Let's go. You know how they do that on Sundays? We're going to check out of this Jets game, and we're going to send you over to Kansas City where it's tied.
What I joked was, for anyone not in the Chicago and Rockford areas, we take you now to Game X.
Yeah.
And I waited a half a beat and said, and for those of us still in the Chicago Rockford area, here's the next drive. You know?
So to answer your question, the game itself is set up so that you could do what you're asking. We just need to think about what is the best way to do that in the user interface so that, and maybe, we just have to think about the best way to do that. Do we want to, because remember, we're not just doing a quarter at a time usually. Usually I'm coaching a game and I'm getting immediate updates from those other games. Mm-hmm. Let's think about it. But yes.
Yeah, just throwing it out there. Yep.
But so this is one of those things where I'd love to have, maybe we have, starting in a month or two, we just pick a brainstorming session and we pick a topic like this one and think of, okay, I'm thinking of the technical side. You guys are thinking of the UI side. We're all thinking of the UI and the flow. But yes, to answer your question, yes, you could do. Now here's the other thing though. Remember that in season or career play, if I don't like where a game is, I can go reset that game and start it over. So that's if I'm watching the highlights for a game, I'm seeing it. If we're doing it more real time, then maybe I'm seeing what the current state of that game is in the third quarter, but it's not locked in stone because you could then leave and go restart that game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. You could restart the game, but I was thinking more like, let me go to another game and finish that game out. You know, because that's a better game. And then I'll let the blowout continue. Like, yeah. You know, let the computer finish it. You know, because I ain't going to touch that. You know, but
in 2nd and 10, you can switch from game to game to game
because they kind of all run like
you set game simulcast and just if you get that situation, you can go through, or you can freeze your game and then go to something that's coming down the last drive. Again, I mean, we're not, every game has its strengths and weaknesses, but that's something that can be done, but it's not a lot of graphics in that game either. I mean, what you got is a little more of a complicated engine as far as being able to do, stop a game, start a game, and then either go finish the game that you're trying to pull out of, just like, congratulations, it's now 46-0 Cowboys. Yeah. We really want to watch any more of this? No, we don't.
Just something we talk about, so we thought we'd bring it up, the idea to jump into another game.
Yeah, and that brings up another point related somewhat loosely to that is because I want to be able to let you switch to other games in the studio to watch them. Now, you threw a wrinkle in there. I like that wrinkle. But another thing I'm hoping to do is wouldn't it be able to – I know I've wanted to do this before. I see where a team won the game in the last seconds. I would love to be able to go watch that last drive or watch any play in that drive. So I'm thinking that's something I want to add next year is the ability to watch any drive or any play of the game.
Okay.
What do you think of that?
Yeah.
Should we resurrect Len Dawson and Nick Bonacani for Inside the NFL?
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, that'd be great. All right, here's a big question here that this came to my mind here. So we got Mike. I'm going to have this question for you. When you buy the game, okay, the standard Pro Strategy Football game without the mods, what do you get? And then what do the mods do for that game? Because the mods are a huge part of it. So someone that's thinking about getting this game, they just buy it and they just right out of the box, they play it. What do you get? And then what do you get with the mods?
Okay. I'm sure I'm not muted now, am I? I think I was.
No, we can hear you.
Yep.
Okay. The game comes with a 32-team fictional pro league and a college league. Now, with that, you can do your own pro or college, single season or career. What we offer as modders are historical up to now seasons for free. Now, I do see in the text somebody asked any plans for XFL or USFL. The USFL is actually available. Yes, Mr. Hunter. The USFL 2 seasons, was it 83 and 84, are actually available on the mod site. Someone 1 or 2 years ago made the XFL. It has not been renewed. That's like a 2022 or 2023 version. And someone asked, since we're talking about, so we offer for free every season from 1940 to now. And I will say this season, we hadn't even had a chance to work on it, but there's a modder named Gigi Donovan who allowed us to post on our mod site a link to his modern day mod so that we were able to at least offer everybody something. And thank you, Gigi Donovan, whoever you are. He gave us permission. We either get approached or we ask before we post anything on the mod site. But you get the season, you get the graphics. It used to be you got the schedules, but the schedules Kerry now has in his game. So unless it's a unique schedule, you're actually getting the schedules now with the game. Okay. So,
if I just buy the game and I don't put in any mods, can I play 1982, 1983?
If you don't put any mods in, you would have to build it by hand yourself.
Okay, but you said the schedule was in there, though.
Yeah.
The schedule is in there. Okay. Correct. But you would have to build a 28 team. It was 28 teams back then.
Okay.
You'd have to build a 28 team league.
And then use that schedule.
It would use that schedule. Now with the mods, we try to be as historically accurate as possible. We're human beings. We might have made mistakes and you might not agree with the ratings and all of that. We don't care what you do with the mods after you get them. You can modify them to your heart's content. You can add players. You can boost or reduce ratings. We don't care. They're yours. We gave them to you. We want you to have fun. It's all about you entertaining yourself. So we don't take offense if you change it. We're just not asking you to like re-release it. Just because we have an established mod site. I mean, if for yourself, knock yourself out. Another thing that's great about this game, it's not just the leagues and the graphics. There are other mods out there. Somebody, I don't know if it still works, actually made a face generator so that you could have different players. It looks like something out of Tecmo Super Bowl where you could have it just randomly generate faces and you could use that for images. And that's another thing the mod site offers is images of players and coaches. Again, that's for free. But there are also sounds. There are actually sound mods available of, I'm not going to name names, but individuals calling games.
Yeah.
And it replaces, if you load that mod, it will replace the default sounds. So you're hearing different announcers calling the game. And somebody asked about music. I saw in the text, can you get permission to use certain music? Well, here's the thing. You don't need permission if you already own the music yourself, a CD or a download. The reason I'm saying that is the game comes with the ability of having a music playlist.
I see.
There's a music folder. You can put MP3s in there. You can select a song, have it on random, whatever. So if you have actual music from a league, you can drop it in there. And if you own it, it's yours.
Nice.
You can do it. You have the rights to do it. Nobody can give it to you, but you own it. It's yours.
So you can play it in your game. Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah,
so
70s music. Yeah.
So you can have the music and sound effects. If you know how to record sound effects, somebody said, can you do, instead of unnecessary roughage, can you have the sound a clip of saying, giving them the business, which was a famous, right. Well, I mean, unless you have that sound, if there are in the sound folder, there are penalties and sound effects and all that. You can change them out. Just rename them what that was. So if you have that clip, you can have anytime there's that given penalty, it'll play that clip. Okay. So the game is made to be modded out the wazoo. Kerry really took into consideration that people could have their own sandbox. So he's made so much moddable, including now, and this is something I suggested recently, you can have your own images for like the mother screen or other screens in the game. You can have, if you want to create your own for your own league or an actual league, you can take that picture and you put it in a folder. And instead of seeing Pro Strategy Football 2024, it'll say whatever picture it is you have. So you can customize those screens. Yeah. That's new this year.
Yeah, 'cause I know Ron wants to put some Motorhead in his game when he plays. You know,
if that's what he wants, we can't offer it up to you. Nobody can offer it up to you legally. But if you already own it,
put it in the game, Ron. You can play some
in the folder, and there you go.
Play some Motorhead. There you go.
Who?
So just to be clear, when you get the game, you get the basic game, and you can play it. But if you want to play any of the old NFL seasons,
the ones that we show off,
the ones that we play, you go, you get to the mod site and you drop them in. And this year, you just extract into a folder. It was really easy this year when I did it. And then, so I think you have. Is it the decades that you have? You have it set by decades.
Yeah, and that's something we changed starting last year. And the reason is we were offering individual seasons. And each individual season, and that's honestly what a lot of people do. I only care about X, Y, and Z. I don't care about anything else. And that's fine. But it was a graphic overload. Those graphics are big files.
Yes, they are.
So if you wanted to download so many seasons or everything, you were doing them on an individual basis, and you were beyond overloading. I know that Dave was concerned about hard drive space. This was even bigger than that, and a lot of those graphics were redundant. Like the Cowboys used to say, I'm making up a time frame. The same uniforms from 1970 to 1983. I'm just making up a time frame. So you've got them all individually, the same graphics over and over and over and over again. So Lee and I talked about it in Dream Teams, and we decided to go decades. The league files are really small. They're not that big. It's not a problem. And you can play without the graphics. It's just you're going to have generic everything. But with the league files, Lee went through history and looked at what years the uniforms were, what year the midfield logos were, the end zones, the stadium, indoor, outdoor, all of that. And he made a folder like Minnesota 1970 to 1974 for uniforms. And, so that way when you download the decade, you're downloading 10 years worth, but if you're going to do those 10 years anyway, it's actually less space.
I see.
So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're trying to consolidate. So if you only want 1976, unfortunately, you have to download the entire 70s decade.
Okay.
So there's give and take. Which way do you go?
Right.
Okay. So anybody has a question about Pro Strategy Football, now's the time to ask. I'm going to go back to some of the comments in here because I don't want to ignore anybody in the chat room. A Cleveland baseball fan is joining us here. Zeldaran is here as well. Michael, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
My buddy Ray in Connecticut, who we've banned from the chat room.
As you should, Ray.
We banned from the chat room.
Hang on one second. He's from Connecticut. Whereabouts? Or am I being too personal?
I think he's in kind of the southern part of Connecticut. Oh, just outside of Hartford, I think. So.
Well, I used to live outside of Hartford, so that's the only reason I say that.
I had an uncle who lived in the Waterbury area.
Okay, yeah, I know where that is. I've been there.
David C. stopping by, and John, it's 200. We're not at 201 yet. That'll be next week. Noble stopping by. Bears Den. Oh, Bears Den. I'm sorry about your Bears. I'm so sorry about the Bears. Go play an older season. Go back to 85. Play them.
Thank you, Bernie.
Bernie, thank you so much. Oh, Lee was here. Yep. Fan stopping by. He's still playing his Pro Strategy Football with the 2013 Seahawks. That's great. Good luck. Bernie, congratulations on 2024. It's the most improved play sim, and it's most improved. Yep. The game's accurate and fun to play. It is. It's accurate and fun to play. Yeah. Lee says those 70s Bengals teams are underrated.
Yes, they are.
The helmets are. Right. The helmets are underrated. I like the helmets.
Can I jump in here and get a little off topic? But because he was talking about underrated, it's funny. People comment on how good a team is. And it's not just Pro Strategy Football. It's other games I found this. There are teams that you would be thinking, there's no way they were that good. But if you use, like, for example, the 2012 Texans, they are super, super hard to beat. And I don't care what video game I don't care what sim you're using. Just don't ask me why. They are just super, super hard to beat. Same with the 67 Raiders. They are super, super hard to beat. They should, if you play a lot of these games, you're going to find, not just Pro Strategy Football, but other games, you may find them running over the Green Bay Packers in Super Bowl II. Don't ask me why. 56 Giants, they don't do very well. They were a great team. And I remember saying this to Al Red Sox fan, I actually cheated them a little bit with the ratings to get them up so that they could actually win games. Because when we do ratings, we're basing it off of their stats.
Right.
And we're trying to be realistic so that you will get those stat outputs. But I had to cheat it to make the 56 Giants, be able to actually win the NFL title. It's just funny how it works. Teams that you would think would be great are not always that way, and the vice versa. Don't ask me why. And it's not just this game; it happens. Play other games. Yeah.
Yep. What happens in other games?
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I was playing the 72 Stanley Cup Finals with the Bruins and the Rangers, which the Bruins won, and I played in 2 or 3 different games, and the Rangers crushed them. Rangers absolutely crushed the Bruins, and then Ron played a game too. He's like, "Yeah, the Rangers are a good team that year. Maybe they should have won the cup over the Bruins." So, anything can happen. Back to the comments. Marlon, 73, getting back into cards and dice. Good job. Good job.
You, Marlon. Love your banner back there, Marlon. Too.
Yeah, that's great, man.
Huge fan of the Little River Band.
Nice job, Richard. Thank you so much. And Fox Screw Cards. Can't wait for 400. Oh boy. That's a long way off. What would that be? Pro Strategy Football 2057?
There you go.
Thank you, Mo.
Thanks, Mo.
Let's see. They were talking about the snowplow incident here when we were talking about that. And Rob wants to know, are there any Easter eggs in Buffalo when Brady plays there?
Ask Lee on that one. I don't know what he's done.
Thank you so much, Rob, for that.
Thanks, Rob.
David C., any obscure referee calls like the unnecessary roughness call for giving him the business?
Give him the business.
You can make it.
You can
take the time. You can actually insert it to the game.
We need to get first down. We need to get that in there.
Oh, okay. We need to have you record that for us then.
Let's see.
We got to make it as configurable as possible so that you can do stuff like that.
Thanks, Gary.
Bernie L., thank you so much. Tommy Ballgame, thank you so much. Gary says the mods are incredible. Yes, they are. Lee was saying that you could play the 1982 schedule and rules when we were talking about that.
That's speaking of schedules, that's something else that comes with the game. You have the option of playing both strike seasons, 1982 and 1987.
Oh, nice.
The actual schedule that they actually played, or the full 16-week schedule. So if you wanted to bypass, let's pretend the strike didn't happen for 1982 or 1987, you have to pick the right schedule. But yes, you actually can. And this may sound kind of messed up. Last year, you can play last season's schedule with or without the Buffalo-Cincinnati game. For those who want to do I talked to Kerry about it. I said, the only reason I'm suggesting you have both is because there's some purists out there that would be like, well, that didn't really happen. Well, now you can play it for how it actually really was. So you have the option. I know it's kind of
that's modeling, but it's true. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's kind of a subject, but that way nobody can say, well, that's not what really happened. Well, you can play it that way.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that.
All right. A couple
we got more questions for you. Anybody in the chat room, if you got questions, let us know.
I'm seeing that 3 downs is an option this year. Does that mean there's a CFL option? And could you do it with the 110-yard field?
Okay, so you're asking too many questions.
Always. That's why you're here, Kerry.
Because you can now do 3 downs. You can do a 20-second clock. There's other things we added for CFL. A fella has sent me a field. I will say that conceptually, I might be able to add that field. The question is, with all that I'm doing for next year, whether it will make it into the 2025 version.
Okay.
If I can, I will. I don't know yet. But, I don't know if everybody knows, but you can configure the rules in the game. And if you've never messed with that, you really ought to pull it up and click on Quick Set to see. It's broken down well over a dozen different rule sets. NFL, 1948, USFL.
Show that off in my first look video. So we do have video of everything that you did with that. So.
Now, it's not perfect or complete for the XFL, USFL, and Canadian. They're not like I don't have that you can go for 3 and stuff like that yet. Got to leave something for future years, right? For our 400th episode.
That's right. That's right. The other thing is, can you take a couple minutes while people put in their questions and explain the difference between career mode and single season? Because Dave and I just do single season. So run through what career mode is, please.
That's a great question because I find myself. I play all 3. Sometimes I will just pair up 2 teams in exhibition play. But I love playing single season. I'll take a season that meant a lot to me, and I'll just play that season, and I might play it over and over again. So in single season play, at the end of the season, you're done. You can play it again. Now in career, what happens is your players now age a year. Some of them may retire. There's a draft for the upcoming. So basically, let's say you don't have to have a favorite team, but let's say let's just follow Denver. And you start off with the way they are in that league. Let's say you start with the 1982 league, just throwing one out there.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to 1983, you now separate yourself from history because now there's a draft. There's free agents, there's waivers, and so forth. And players, like I say, will retire and get now. So that's the main difference. Now,
let me stop you right there for a sec. Sure. So let's say you finish the 82 season, you get to the 83 draft. Is it the real 83 draft, or are we drafting fictional players, or combination of both? Or
okay. So currently, it is a fake draft.
So you can't take Elway with Baltimore.
Well, you can, but you'd have to edit it yourself.
Okay.
You would have to, because you can do that now. You can. The draft pool is a CSV file, and you could go in and put Elway in there.
Okay.
Now, we're in talks about possibly creating some historic draft pools, but something else I want to do for my personally is I want to change it so that the leagues can actually change format over time. So they can go from 24 teams to 26 to 28. And then I want to go an extra step. And you know me, I take the 1975 Dallas Cowboys, right? I go to 76, and the normal flow would be I go through the draft and so forth. What I want is a separate option and say, skip the off season. I want to go load the 1976 league and make that part of my career. So it's kind of like Cyclopedia Mode, right? So I would have this 1976 version of Staubach now, the 1977 version. In 76, I would have Dorsett. So that's a long-winded answer to your question. Does that help?
No, it's not at all. It's, because I see people, the modes there, and just wondered what the difference was. So theoretically, so is it possible to be completely fictional from the start? So let's say I wanted whatever the league setup was, let's say AFL, NFL. And if I wanted to start with like 1965 AFL and have that, could I start with something completely fictional, just using those names and colors and all that, but not having Namath or Snell or any of that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, this year, one of the things I've done is I've made it where you can build a career with as few as one conference and 2 teams, or as many as, I believe it's 16 or 20 conferences.
Whoa.
And 140 teams. So that gives you the total flexibility. And in fact, folks love to take Dream Team's MFL mod and play that. One of our other guys, Gary Sorrell, Samgar on Steam, I think he plays a 6-team league. And so he has a career with 6 teams in it. So, yeah, you got that complete flexibility. Someone asked that I have a vision to make it different from Madden. I'll be honest, I've never really played Madden. I've tried Madden. That's not my kind of game. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a fun game if that's what you like, controlling players and all. My game was basically I wanted to take the board games that I grew up loving, Stratomatic, Pay Dirt, ATBA, but then go beyond that to create because we used to see the old text games. Remember those text games?
Oh, yeah.
They were pretty realistic, but they had no animation.
Kerry, talk a bit about the Tom Landry stuff, because people may not know that. So I was 30 years old, went back to school. I wanted to get a computer science degree, and it came time to write I either had to write a thesis, which I knew I did not want to do, or do a project. And my brother and I loved playing board games, whether it's Third Reich or Pay Dirt or something. But now we were living far apart. And so I thought, for my project, I just want to write a football game that Kenneth and I can play. It never dawned on me to make it add career, get it endorsed, sell it for money or anything like that. It was for me and him. And the school loved it. I got my master's degree. And a fella said, you need to go show this to these other guys. And I was like, okay. Oh, and the graphics were horrible back then. You would have laughed. I mean, it looked like some kind of powder puff football. And so they said, would you be okay with showing this to Tom Landry? And I was a big Coach Landry fan. So I was like, so after they scraped you up off the floor.
That's right. So he endorsed it. We had that for a few years. And then that company, life moved on. I got a real job. That company wound up going out of business. In 2010, we had a family thing happen where one of my sons, suffered a traumatic brain injury. And so the family pulled together to help him. And my other son said, Dad, we've all learned something here. We've learned that time is short, and you keep saying you're going to someday pick up that game again. Do it. So in 2011, the first version of my game came out on iOS. So there you go. Nice. Long story.
Okay. Nice. Al, I think he might have left the room here, but I had the same question. Any chance of a fantasy draft coming to the game where you can release everybody into the wild and just and pick your own team?
Yeah, in fact, if I look at my top priorities for next year, I listed some of them. I want the ability to take the Cowboys and change the format of the league every year. That's a lot of work. And then one of the other things is I want to be able to zoom in on players if I can, and I want to be able to have a fantasy draft to start it.
Okay. The other thing, trades, the ability to trade some players.
Yes. So I worked on a design this year. It is a big effort, but I'm very confident. Now, if you listen to all I'm saying, every one of these things is big, so I'm hoping I can get them all in there and throw in a bunch of smaller things. Like, to me, adding more stats, Rookie of the Year, those kind of things I can get in, and they're not quite as big as some of these things. The trading the players, my plan is to have it in there for next year, but completely human-driven. So I'm the GM, and I can manage a trade. So it's up to me whether it's going to be fair or not. Mm-hmm. And I can trade players between Denver and the Bears. Yeah, I don't know who's going to win that trade, but but there's no AI, because if you look at it, most games that do AI-driven trading, they don't do it well anyway, and that would take me an entire development cycle at the cost of everything else.
I loved just seeing how different quarterbacks would do on different teams.
So you'd be able to put Bradshaw on the Steelers. I mean, that's stupid. That
would be the case, yeah.
On Oakland, although Stabler, pretty darn good.
But if you could take like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady's and switch them and do that, that would be quite interesting to see what would have happened.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah. So, the other question Al had was, do defensive players individually get fatigued, or is it just a defense as a whole that gets fatigued?
So right now it's seen as a whole.
Okay.
Because, you hear of the defense tiring, and if you keep them on the field a long time, they tire. But that is another one of the things that's in my list. Yes, I want to tire individual and defensive players, which means I've got to have the AI swap them out more. So.
Okay. I got a handful of weather questions, actually, for both of you guys here. The first question is the weather just for show, or does that have some kind of impact on the game?
It does.
It does.
So for example, if you're running sweeps in the snow, you have a greater chance of slipping. On the other hand, if you run some kind of pass pattern that has like a comeback and it's raining, since you know what you're doing and the defender doesn't know what you're doing, there's a greater chance of him slipping.
Oh,
so
interesting.
You still can slip.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so yes, the precipitation plays quite an effect. The temperature doesn't. If it's cold, it doesn't really affect you very much. Same with the heat either. Does that help?
Yeah. Does the wind affect field goals?
Yes. Yeah, you want the wind at your back if you can.
Is there ever a crosswind that'll force it wide?
Not at this time.
No, so it's just in your face or in your back.
Yeah, I thought about that as well.
Okay.
Not yet.
There's no buffalo kicking effect in having it.
Mike, this one might be for you, because you were doing some of the mods and the schedules and the whole bit. Is the weather completely random, or did you have it kind of dialed in for each game as it was?
Well, this is something I want to say that came out last year, and this actually had to do with us discussing this with Kerry. And someone had the idea, because the game is now lists every single month, January to December, in case you have a summer league, for example. But going through regions, the investigation was done and presented for this area of the country in these months. Here are the normal weather conditions, and here are the normal temperatures. So all of it, with the exception of it being a dome, it's normally, I guess, 70 degrees and no wind. That's actually part of the game, dependent on where you are.
And the time of year.
Where the home team is taking place and the month of the year that it's taking place. So in September, it's probably not going to snow, but if you're in New York, it's more likely to snow.
So what I'm kind of getting at is if I played the snowplow game with Miami and New England, there's no guarantee that it'll be snowing that day.
No. It won't take the actual weather. It doesn't do that.
I was just wondering if you put in that today it rained, today it snowed, today it was cold, today it was hot, today it was windy. That's just a weather question that I had.
Yeah, but I think Kerry was going to say this. If you can, there's the customize button. You can go in there and say it's a blizzard and it's super windy.
Oh, before the game?
Yes. So you can customize.
So you can make the weather what it was.
Yes.
You guys need to check that button. That button gives you a lot of flexibility.
I didn't know that. So you could, whatever that game was, you could say, okay, we're going to put that weather in, manually. Okay.
I love to make it snow. I can create a scenario where, it's snowing. There's 2 minutes and 20 seconds left. I've got 2 timeouts and I'm down by 4 on my own 20. Can I pull it out?
I see. Okay.
Lee has a really interesting post. He put the snow percentages in the mods are taken directly from the National Weather Service data.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, no, I knew there was kind of in there, but I didn't know how crazy it went. Or maybe there was a handful of games to say, okay, yes, this was the crazy rain game in Tampa Bay. So but that's something you can put in yourself. Okay.
Right.
I had a kicker one time. I believe his long was 55, and I think I hit a 57-yard field goal. So it is possible. So field goal kickers can, on occasion, hit longer than they're long. Correct?
Right.
Okay.
His percentage will be low, but you can do it.
Okay, good. When we were talking about old seasons and probably more running, do the running backs, is their fatigue different because they ran more back in the day than they did now? Meaning that if I'm going to run Jim Brown 55 times, he might not get as tired as the guy today that runs 55 times. You know what I mean? Because it was more run heavy. So the run is more durable back then in the game?
That is something that I know Lee was big on.
Right.
With the older seasons, 40s, 50s, and the like. And I'm not the one to accurately answer that question. Lee would probably be able to do it, but I know he worked with Kerry on that, in that they were trying to figure out I forgot what the setting was, but for those older leagues, they are going to run more.
Yeah, stamina and durability.
Yeah, stamina and durability to allow for those players who did run a lot that they will not be realistically as fatigued as those who didn't.
Right.
To try to keep realism afloat. So that was something that Lee was heavily involved in with Kerry.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question I have. When you change a formation or you change a package, especially on offense, you change a running package to a passing package, does that tend to create more delay of games? Or is that just kind of my imagination that when I'm playing the game, okay, I'm going to bring in the jumbo package and I get the first down and then I bring in the trips wide and then I get a delay of game because they're shuffling players in and out. So that's kind of just a random thing. That's not okay. I didn't know how crazy that was. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And, that brings up a good question. Something that's bothered me before, and I've talked to other people who, computer scientists, and said, sometimes I get into these things where I'll get like 4 penalties in a row. And is that just a function of my random number generator? And they said, yeah, but it's realistic. They said that happens. So don't try to fix that because you're doing the wrong thing. So it happens.
Lee says it's the stamina rating that he altered depending on the back. Okay.
So, look at the next comment.
I'll give it.
Yes, Mike has a lot of money. He's cooking dinner behind him.
I just to let you know what this is. The reference Mike in the truck, or I know Ron has said Mike from the truck as well, had to do when I would direct him and Al calling Pro Strategy games. And so when he was talking to me, he would say, hey, Mike in the truck, what's going on? Like if something happened or whatever. The reason he called me that, because like I actually am a TV director. And what's behind me is an old control room from the 1990s. I mean, this is back when we used the 4x3 and TSC. But that's an actual control room that I worked in. So to make it look like I'm in a remote truck. It's actually not a remote truck that's behind me, but it's a picture of an old control room from the 90s that I actually used to work in. So
that's
what's running back there is broadcasting equipment.
I worked in 1988 with a local cable company here, and we were working with Walter Killer Kowalski on wrestling. And I had just come out of high school. I was out of high school 3 or 4 years, and I was big into TV production. And I went into the local cable place, and they showed you how to use all the stuff. And they took all us newbies out to do this shoot with wrestling. And we had to use, it was a Genlock to sync the cameras and things like that. Wow. That's how long ago that was. And I would be the guy in the headset, and Kowalski would say, the guy in the red tights is going to get thrown out. So I'd go, camera 1, red tights, and then I'd punch the button for camera 1. That's how old it was when we did that stuff there back in the day, late 80s.
Cool. You know what a Genlock is? Interesting.
Yep. And they couldn't. I was the one that figured it out, and only because I remembered from high school. But now it's all computers, and all that stuff's thrown out the window now. But.
Yeah, it was to keep all the cameras in sync.
Yeah,
because the timing could be slightly off. It's to make it so that they're all in exact time with one another. Otherwise, there could be a little bit off.
Mm.
So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was kind of fun doing that. I remember I had the camera one night. I used to like to do the I forget what they call the director, what he was called. I used to like to do that. Camera 1 here, camera 2 here. But one night I did the camera at an event, and I'm hanging onto the post like this with the camera, and the guy's beating, and he saw me, and he kept pushing the guy toward me, and I'm going, I'm going to fall. Someone get behind me. It says, and if you don't care about me, care about this expensive camera that's going to hit the ground. And it was so fun then. Now we had a good time doing that wrestling stuff.
Oh my God.
Kerry,
I got a question regarding the formation. So when you're in a hurry up offense, or let's say a no huddle offense, is there some sort of penalty when you do change formations? Because obviously you're not necessarily changing people, and so that would, yeah.
I've thought about that. So right now, if you go no huddle, there's a slightly increased chance, of being offsides on offense, but it's not modified by whether you change formation. I thought about I should at the very least, if you bring in, because if you're in a pro I formation and change to pro set, that's not a big deal.
No.
If you change from one back or from pro set to trips, that's kind of a big deal now. So yeah, I have thought about that, but
if you're changing formation, yeah, you kind of, if you're changing personnel.
Yeah, that's a good point. In fact, real quick question. I'm thinking about adding more packages next year, so that I think it would mainly affect defense, though. So if I bring in a nickel defense, that you would actually decide, well, who's my nickel back and so forth like that, instead of now the AI kind of assigns those. Is that something worthwhile doing, you think? Or
there are people who probably who would like that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Another thing I think I've seen people ask for this, and I actually supplied Kerry with this last year. I actually have a video of John Madden demonstrating it. Is the 4-6 defense?
That's right.
So we could put that on the Bears, for example, or the Houston Oilers from 1993.
I've gotten questions about whether the 4-6 is in the game.
It's not as of yet. In this game, along with other games that I've seen, they just used the 4-3 for that setup. So that's what we did. We did for that. And another thing I pitched to Kerry was the Grits Blitz, which is basically 10 men on the line and one man. We would put that in the mod for the 77 Falcons. So just a one-time.
But the 5-2 is in the game.
Yeah. The 5-2 is in the game, yes.
Are you going to have the tush push?
Yeah, that's become very popular lately. Yeah. I guess we could.
I thought you weren't allowed to push your own teammate. I thought that was a rule.
Doing it this year.
Maybe you can't pull them? I don't know.
I remember a video of Refrigerator Perry grabbing a running back and throwing him in the end zone. His own guy. And they were like, they flagged him for it. But now you see people pushing their own guys all the time. And I didn't think you could do that.
Terry will tell you that once Jerry Kramer did that in a football game in the late 60s, and anyone could do that then, right?
That's right.
Wasn't that the thing that Kramer pushed up, helped get Starr over the goal line or whatever it was in the Ice Bowl?
I hate to say I don't remember all the specifics. I just know they lost the game.
If people have suggestions on formations, because there are people who are old football aficionados, and we're not talking just 70s, but 50s and 60s, and they'll send us messages, and I don't remember. I wasn't alive then. Is there a generic email that they can kind of park suggestions to that, because I know it's all volunteer mods and stuff, and everyone wants it correct. But I know when I look at an older season and it wants me to do a trips formation for passing, when did they start with 4 wide and a pass? They weren't doing that in the 60s, were they? Or were they?
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, it's a blank to me, but I know that when formations were being added, I actually typed up this long list of and sent it to everybody of these teams did this for formations. And as an example, I want to say the 68 Jets actually used a shotgun.
That's right.
If you want to play the 68 Jets and you use the default, Namath can go in the shotgun.
Yeah.
Whereas the Steelers in the 70s, the first time they used it was 1989. Bubby Bristol.
Really?
Yes. They never used a shotgun during Noel until 1989. So
wow.
The default, now, of course, we may have made mistakes here and there, of course, but I mean, I think Kansas City, the Chiefs with Len Dawson 1 or 2 years actually did the shotgun. So that's actually in the. We looked all this up. That's actually put in their playbook.
The 78 Chiefs ran a single wing.
I don't know. I don't remember. I have to look it up.
Only reason
I'm not disputing you.
Yeah, weird, but yeah.
The only other team that I remember using the shotgun when I grew up, obviously, it was the Cowboys, and it was really weird. It was out of the shotgun. I do remember the Houston Oilers using it, and they called it the bullet. It was Houston did the bullet, Dallas did the shotgun, and then over time it all became shotgun. But I do remember Houston, and I don't know what year it was. It must have been the 70s.
Was it 1970?
It was in the 70s. Well, when Dallas did it,
remember that
Dallas did it first.
Doing the research,
and then there was Houston that did it, and I don't know who the Houston quarterback was, but I think they called it the bullet. That's what the announcers called it. And then eventually everyone started doing it, and it just went to the shotgun. But that sticks in my head for some reason that Houston did it, and it was called the bullet. And I could be very, very wrong with that, but I thought that was the other team that used the shotgun back in the day.
I wanted that rings a bell to me. I could be wrong, but that might be part of it. When I had this grand list, I'd have to go find it.
Right.
But not just shotgun, but other plays. And Lee told me about something. I forgot what the formation was, but it wasn't in the game, but it was something that was commonly used in the 50s. And he said, that's very close to the pistol. So why don't we do pistol formation for that? Because it looks almost the same. So, I mean, we used what was with the game engine. I mean, technically it's not the pistol. I forgot what it was. It's been a while. But it works. So, I mean, it's a different name, but Houston was Stabler.
That had been 80.
I don't know if it was Pastorini that used it, but I remember Houston using it. And I was like, maybe it's just a Texas thing because of Dallas and Houston.
There was 1 year, like one team, I want to say Houston, maybe it was 1970. I could be wrong. Actually used it. Here we go. Lee said the 40s teams used what looked like a pistol formation, and the quarterback would run out of that formation. Thank you, Lee. I knew it was something like that. So Lee was like, I'm actually putting pistol in there so that the formation is at least there, and then you can have the quarterback run.
Okay. There was a question here that someone posted that I wanted to see. Is there a home field advantage built into the game?
Yeah, so that's something you can turn on or off in the settings, and it's not there in a championship game, but in other games, it's there, and it's a very slight thing. I don't try to have anything be overwhelming, but it slightly affects a few things like recovering fumbles, that kind of thing.
Okay. And let me see. There was someone here that would
if I
love
could add to that,
CFL teams down the line. So that was another suggestion.
If I could add to what Kerry was talking about, what was the topic again? I'm sorry, Kerry.
On the home field advantage?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. With that, that was something that we had suggested to Kerry. At first, Kerry was like, let's do home field advantage. And I actually, so there is a rating for home field advantage. And what we modders did was if you went undefeated at home, the highest rating is a 9. So you got a 9. So if you lost 1 or 2 games, it might be a 9 or an 8. And then 2 more games, you go down to a 7 and so on and so on and so on. And then like if you won nothing, it was a 2 or a 1. But I suggested to Kerry, what about road rating?
Yeah.
Because some teams are better on the road.
Right,
I'll give you an example. The 89 49ers lost 2 games at home, ran the table on the road.
Interesting.
So can we do it both ways? So there actually is a home and away rating. So like the 49ers are a 9 at home and an 8 on the an 8 at home, but a 9 on the road.
Interesting.
Or something like that. Or maybe there's 7 at home, but a 9 on the road because that's what they did in real life.
Yeah,
so
I suppose.
We're trying to use the engine so that when you on home or road, with the exception of neutral field, it has some element of truth to it.
That's right.
I like that because there's some teams that, like the horrible teams, that would win a couple games at home, but they would go winless on the road too. So you would have to have a really bad road rating for that as well. Kerry, earlier we were talking about how you wanted to include the ability to see every play, so you could watch a drive play out and replay that. Yeah. And one thing I was thinking about that was on my wish list was the option to save a play as a highlight. I had a crazy play. It was like a third and the quarterback and he got sacked. It was a huge loss. It was a big play in the game. And it didn't save it as a highlight. And I wanted to show that off at the end of the game. I wanted to say, you should see this crazy play that happened on third and whatever it was. And this was the key play in the game. And when I went there was no highlight for it because it wasn't a score or a fumble or something like that. But so I was like, boy, if I could have hit a button that said, save this as a highlight so I could show that off, that would have been great. Yeah,
so if I do what I'm hoping to do, you would easily be able to go back and watch that play because since you'll be able to watch any play. But maybe I could also add the ability to mark it as a highlight because one of my users on Steam came up with something I never thought of. He said he would like the ability to mark a player as a favorite so that if you're in career play, and let's say I pick, I don't know, randomly Staubach, and
gosh, that's random.
I know.
Incredibly random there, Kerry. We would have never guessed that.
So then if I go to a screen called favorites, then I see every player that I have favorited. Even if I play 20 years in my career, I would see them because currently what you'd have to do is you'd go look at Dallas, you'd go look at history, I'd go look at the quarterbacks, and I'd see them in that big list. Or I can go into player history and I can type in Staubach in the filter box, and he comes up. Well, wouldn't it be nice to have a screen where the guys that I like to watch, and they could be from different teams.
Yeah.
I like to watch Stabler, Bradshaw, and Staubach, all three over their career. So, but that wasn't your question. What was your question?
I got a kind of derivative of that.
Would it be highlights? Don't let me forget. Go ahead. What now, Ron?
Would it be possible when you're setting up a season or whatever to have a check box of things that you would like to see saved personally as highlights?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. In fact, I'm going to have to redesign how highlights are done next year because if you think about it, the game currently has every play, a minimal amount of data saved because I can print out at any time the full play-by-play of that game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got full play information saved over here in an array called highlights. Well, what I want to do is say, okay, let's just step back and redesign it so that every play can be a highlight. And then, like you say, maybe I mark them, or maybe I have a check at the beginning, like you say. I want to see every turnover. I want to see every third and fourth down.
Yeah, so, right. That third down would be the one I was thinking of because those are key plays. If you stop a team on third down and they lose the game, that's because that would be the reason why.
Now, that brings up another point. Because I hadn't thought about the highlight question till you guys were saying that got me brainstorming. I think you probably also would like the ability to have and again, some of this stuff may be in the following year's version, but
right.
But still, when you say you want to be able to mark it as a highlight, wouldn't it be able to be kind of cool to say, save this to a reel?
Yes.
So that maybe I've got a highlight from this game, maybe three highlights from this game, and then 4 from this game, but they're all over here. And I think I could do that because all I would do is, to show these 3, I load those team images, I show those 3 plays, now I load the other images to show the next 4 plays. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What we like to do when we do, we like I said, we have a broadcast. So at the end of the game, we tend to go back and take a look at final scores and look at plays, and we almost do like a This Week in the NFL with Tom Brookshire and what was the other guy there?
Pat Summerall.
It's like, This Week in New Orleans, Dallas went in there, and then they just kind of show a couple highlights of the game. So I love doing that. It just kind of brings like the whole experience here. If I want to play a team from the 50s, the 55 Giants, let's just say, and I want to have them play the 2022 Cardinals, let's say. How do I do that? Do I need to have all those seasons installed, right? To play those teams? And is that possible to play?
Mike, do you want to take that? Or
Yes, it is possible. Okay. Now, so somebody from 55 and somebody from 2022. You need the 55 season. If you got it from the 1950s decade, and the 2022 season from the 2020s decade. There are two ways of doing it. If you just wanted a one-off, go into exhibition game and you can build it.
Okay.
And what you do is the home and the visitor can be defined by any league file. Okay, so you can make the visitor the 1950, 55 Giants, and then the home team.
That was his idea, by the way. I'm trying to point over at him.
Yeah, I just so that you wouldn't have to build your own league.
It was a great idea.
One-off. It was just a one-off. So, and the game loads the respective uniforms, and you can choose between home and away. And there's a button actually on the very bottom, whether you're a visitor or home, you can say use same league as visitor or home. So if you want them to both be 2022, you don't have to like reload all over again that visiting team. You could just click on use this, and then it goes 2022, but then you'll have to reselect the team. So they're there. And correct me if I'm wrong, Kerry, but the default rule set by default is the home team's rule set for that given year.
That's right.
So you can modify the rule set if you want.
That's right.
It's completely customizable. Like we talked about, you can change the weather.
Maybe you can't go for two.
What's that?
Maybe you say, I don't want to be able to go for two or something. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You could change the rule set, but by default, it goes with the home team's rules because they're the home team.
Yep.
So then you just run the game, and the respective graphics, whether they've got face masks. It's fun watching teams like in the 40s, in the early 50s that didn't have face masks taking on somebody that did have face.
Wow, yeah.
And you can watch it that way. The other way is make your own league, and that's something that comes with the game. You can build your own league from 2 teams to 140, and you can have 1 to 16 conferences now. So if you just wanted to build a league with, just for argument's sake, 2 teams, you can go in and select the season first, then the team, and then for each decade, and save it that way. I mean, if you just wanted those 2 teams in a single league, it'd be kind of silly, but as a one-off, it's more realistic. But you could do it either way, and so yes, it can be done, and you can make leagues or simulate games from any time in history. It's just, who do you want to see match up? And again, we try to design it so that the ratings are quote unquote universal.
Okay.
But
that is
we're not perfect. You are better off playing, and this is for any game from what I've been told. I talked to a program of another game. He said the most realistic result you are going to get if you play one of these games is stay inside the given season.
In the season, right? Yeah.
I guess in that respective season.
That's mostly what I play. Yeah, because, we ask people all the time, when we have them on the show that develop games, it's just like, how can you look at a football team from the 50s and a modern team where it was all running and they couldn't kick for the save their life? I mean, a 20-yard field goal was a big deal, and now you're kicking 65-yard field goals and you're passing all the time. So it's 2 completely different eras of football,
right?
And you still want to play them, but boy, I tell you, I don't know how you make that work. And the same with basketball. We talked to basketball designers, and how do you have a team that played back in the 70s where there were no 3-pointers, and they take on a team from the modern era that is shooting 3-pointers all day long? Yeah, how do you have those teams play? If this team, how do you rate a team that never took a 3-point shot? I mean, how do they stay in the game? But you're right. Stay in the season and all is good. But if you go outside the season, I guess it is what it is.
Well, it's tough because you look at the teams of the 70s, and the receivers and quarterbacks didn't get nearly the protection they do now. So today's numbers are much higher, but I don't think that means they're necessarily better. They're just
well, it's also a combination of the rules too, in that if you look mean enough as a middle linebacker at a quarterback who's really popular, they'll flag you before the snap for roughing the passer. It's gotten ridiculous.
Yeah.
I know they're trying to protect everybody, but it's gotten ridiculous. I sneezed on him too hard, 15-yard penalty. What? So, I mean, in Super Bowl 10, when Lambert took the Cowboy field goal kicker when he was patting a player that patted Roy Joella when he missed a field goal, Lambert ran up to him, picked him up, turned him upside down, dropped him on the ground.
Yeah.
Ref went up to him and said, "You're out of the game." And he said, "You can't throw me out of the game. This is a Super Bowl." And he didn't get thrown out of the game.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. That's a cool story.
I did not know that.
Yeah. All right. Ron, we'll wrap things up here. Ron's got another question. Got one more in the chat room, and then we'll wrap things up here. But go ahead, Ron.
Any possibility, not that I'm asking, to go further back than 1940? Any interest in doing that? Could it even be done?
Lee and I have talked about that, and here there are two things.
For the novelty factor of it, not necessarily.
That's one of the things that was a pro to doing that, would be the novelty. The deal is that there are no statistics that were kept before 1932.
Okay.
So, and Lee and I are using the stats as a starting point.
Right.
To do this, to try to do it right. We actually have some data that's a frame of reference. So if we were to go back and we were to do it the way we like to do it, it's 32. That's as far back as we would go, because there's nothing from 31
it's the
back.
year of the first championship game, right?
I don't
32 or 33.
33, I think. I want to say it was 33. But
Dave remembers.
And I said to Lee, if we did this, how many people are really going to download it?
That's true.
Are we putting into this and getting, are we going to get, I understand it's niche, but are we going to get people who actually get it?
Well, you're going to get five people that are going to download this.
Right. All
and
this
then
work.
That you couldn't get it right.
Right. And finally, I will say that I built the compilation league NFL 100. And I copied what the NFL did for their NFL 100. There are teams before 1940 that Lee and I built that are in it. I did build them. And I built them as accurately as at least I still want to do it. Lee, I'm not stopping to, hey, Lee built all of the 1940s. I built all the 1950s. Lee, go ahead and build the 30s.
I'm the same way, Lee.
But I'm not stopping you. That was just my take on it. I would like to do it, but I look at how many people. But if you want to do it, do it. Now watch, he's going to run out and do it.
No,
wasn't college?
There's teams in the 30s and the 20s that were in the NFL 100. So I actually did research, and I'm not going to get the ratings right. I'll do straight up, unless it's like
such a different game.
Okay,
such a different game.
I know he's a fantastic quarterback. So I played with that, and I'm not going to get all the race, the skin tones right. And the jersey numbers sometimes weren't accounted for, and their positions weren't always accounted for. So I had to make up, because it was Iron Man football. Well, this person was the nose guard. Well, I don't know that because it's not historical. If I know it and it's listed, I put them in as a nose tackle. If not, I didn't. So they exist in the NFL 100, whichever, because I wanted to complete that collection like Lee wants to do the 30s. So,
that wasn't a request. It was just more of a curiosity.
Wasn't college?
That's why.
Wasn't college more popular back then instead of pro football?
Probably
until the 60s.
Because it's like when I go back and I look at the history of football, the pro football kind of fades out as the further you go back, and college was the big thing. The Army Navy games, just like you go back to that era, it just seemed like college football was just the way. In fact, I have a football game. I think it's a college football game from the 40s. I think it was
1940.
Yeah, and
1940.
Yeah, and it came with wooden dice, and if you wanted to hit the extra point, you had to roll a 7. Otherwise, the extra point was missed.
Let me tell you, I want to. At some point, I'm just going to take a release cycle of the game and say, I want to do what I want, which is to put college into this game more. But that's probably at least another year away. I'd like to answer one of the guys' questions. Carlos, he's got a cute picture of a dog up there.
Yeah.
And he asked me, did I ever dream I'd be able to make a game?
Yeah, that's the question I wanted to put up there for Kerry. Did you ever dream you would be able to make a game and give us a great game that we can enjoy?
No, and you know what? Sometimes I see people slam on the game because it's not what they want. And like anyone, briefly that can bother me. But you know what I never get over? I got to sit with Coach Landry. I got to write a game and I'm published, and I've retired from my real job now. And so I do this. Now I've been doing this a lot this year. My family's kind of like, I thought you were going to slow down a little bit. So, but no, I think I'm one of the lucky guys. I feel very blessed, totally lucky.
I think that, no game is perfect. No game is going to please everyone. Right. We get far more compliments on this game than we get complaints, but every now and then someone will chime in and say, these graphics are stupid. They're so old looking. That's the idea. It's not Madden. It's not supposed to be Madden. It's supposed to be fun looking, and I think that's what captures the fun of the game, is that you're not Madden. And I talked about this on a couple of shows ago. There was a baseball game that I used to play on the Xbox maybe 10 years ago, 5, whatever it was. And it was a cartoony game, and it had old people and young people and men and women and Santa Claus and Colonel Sanders.
Right.
And it was a fun little baseball game, and I forget the name of it now. And they're on their 3rd or 4th version of the game, and I think they were purchased by EA Sports.
Oh, Lord.
And this baseball game now looks like RBI baseball. It's gone from your goofy characters and goldfish swimming in the dugouts to a more serious type of baseball game. And I was like, something? When this was just so fun with the way it was goofy, it was crazy, and that made the game fun. And now that it's a serious look and it's a more serious baseball sim, I have MLB The Show if I want to play a serious baseball sim. I went to this game because it was fun. With 2 strikes, the batter's sweating and it's getting in his eyes and he's nervous and shaking. And that's what made it fun, was kind of the goofiness of those graphics. It still played fantastic, but the goofiness of those graphics made it fun. And not that your game is goofy graphics, but it's a throwback to it.
Right.
And so when I get complaints on the graphics, I just can't take it seriously. But that's what this game is going for.
It has its unique charm is what it has. It has a unique charm. It makes you think retro 90s video games. So haters will be haters. Yeah. That's what it feels like, and it takes you back to a fun time. I could retire and play. But it's got its own charm. I mean, why knock it?
And I suggest I keep those graphics in there, because every year the mods get better. And I think it was last year was the biggest leap. I remember when I played the 2023 version. Yeah. Holy cow, these things are jumping out at me on my computer screen. They're so good. It was such a leap. It really was.
You can thank Lee and Dream Teams for that. They worked on the graphics. Yeah. They did a completely new graphics. They started all over. And remember I mentioned how they were consolidating graphics? Mm-hmm. This was while they were doing, well, while we're going to do this, let's just have it. Those guys were like, we're just going to set it up so that we can consolidate and group everything and make it easier for everybody. We just do it all in one big shot. And they worked tirelessly to get this done and got it done at launch.
It looks so clean.
Yeah.
It looks so clean.
Those guys are so fantastic. Mm. They are the unsung heroes.
Any chance, absolutely, as I say that, of having field wear in the graphics?
Field wear?
Well, yeah, like mud.
The field getting worn down.
Yeah, like the field wearing out as opposed to.
Yeah. That's a kind of a big effort.
I would think it would be a big effort. Lee would have to make maybe one a quarter. You could make it worse every quarter. Yeah. Load a new graphic where it's slightly worse every quarter.
Right.
But that would just mean now you're quadrupling all the graphics.
Yeah.
And you're having
don't
fun
want
with
that.
the graphics now.
I think I know how we would do it.
Or if it's just a rainy day, by the fourth quarter could be a mud bowl in certain areas, and
I think that, and I don't remember, because here's the deal. Originally, I had a football field, and then I could lay these masks on top of it for snow and rain. But I think these guys may have actually created versions. So, yeah, I thought about fog, and
and that's something I actually pitched. I pitched to Lee and Kerry. I said, if we're going to do these Easter eggs, could we do one 1988 Chicago and have fog in there? I was like talking about, could we have a layer maybe of what's halfway
maybe
blurred?
you do an extreme weather button.
Ooh.
Where you could have extreme snow, extreme wind, extreme fog, and just have it just be.
Just
I mean,
fun.
there was a game. I forget what game I played. Maybe it was Madden. Maybe it was Sega Genesis, where you could put ridiculous weather, and the wind would send the kicks everywhere, and it was just hysterically fun. You know what I mean?
Or you get so much snow it just covers all the field markings.
Yeah, and they had trouble running and catching and kicking. You just everything was like you didn't dare kick a field goal. I think that extreme weather would just be it'd be a fun little silly part of the game.
You see Toto flying through the end.
We'll have Lee add that as an Easter egg.
Speaking of that real quick, one guy proposed, and I think I could do this. What if in the rules I'll make it so it's possible for you to say no field goals allowed, no punts allowed, or maybe neither one, just for fun. Now you wouldn't do that, I wouldn't think, for a career. You could, but now what I'd have to do is get the AI to think, what do I do now?
That'd be kind of crazy.
Well, right now, if you're on your own 20, you can't kick a field goal. That option's not there. So
you can't.
So there must be a way in there to take out the field goal option altogether,
Yeah. So what it would have, because sometimes I try to have the AI on third down to try to pick up half the yards it needs if I know he's going to go for it on fourth down. So I could just, I could.
I've made the mistake of setting up a season and had 3 downs checked instead of 4.
Yeah.
So the first third down, I'm going, well, it's third down, right? Like, well, what do you? Yeah, I know it's third down.
Quick kick.
Like, it's third. Oh wait, it's a 3-down game. Yeah, never mind.
Is that in the game? Is quick kick in the game where the quarterback can do a quick punt? Is that in the game?
It's not. I've actually thought about that because when I was in college, they actually did that one time. Because
Elway Cunningham did it.
Yeah,
Brady did it a couple times. Danny White.
That means we're going to have to redo the mods and put in statistics for these guys kicking the ball. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
So, Mike, how can we make your life a living hell next summer, right?
Hey, I got a question because this comes up every year. In your opinion, this is a very small sample, but in your opinion, do you think it's worth it this year or next year to change from a 1 to 9 to 1 to 99 ratings?
I would think the larger the number, the more dialed in you could get. I mean, 1 to 10 is this, but the difference between an 8 and a 9, between an 80 and a 90, you have a I would think that maybe.
Again, you're talking about an 80 for someone that played in 1960. Is that going to be an 80 for someone that played in 2020?
No, yeah.
You don't want to overthink it.
Another thing is, all right, you might be taking the fact that we'd have to redo all of the seasons all over again, unless Kerry has some kind of generator where if somebody's rated an 8, it randomly goes from 80 to 89.
Right.
You're also going to open a can of worms of people going, that person should be rated this. You're exponentially,
No matter what you do, you're going to get that, though.
Right. I mean, and he already has my opinion, Kerry already has an established rating system that works. He can tinker with it for better realism, and he does every year, and he figures out stuff. But what difference if it's somebody is an 8 versus an 82? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's kind of the way I look at it.
We had somebody on one time that had ratings A, B, C, D. And people were complaining left and right. Why is this guy a B and also this guy a B? Well, if you think of it, it would be, 25 at a whack? So a B would be, 50 to 75. Well, if you got a guy that's 74 and a guy that's 51, they're both B, even though they're far apart. So that was the gripe about the ABCD, and they made an okay point about it. But I mean, sometimes you can get a little too picky, I think.
And that's what I'm afraid is going to happen.
David.
It's going to be a big can of worms for Kerry.
Yeah, you know what? My feeling is, if I look at all the things I'm trying to do next year, trading players, fantasy draft, change of career structure, all these new stats and awards and everything. And hey, thank you, Gary. So I think if I look at all that, even though I can see me eventually doing the 1 to 99, I don't see that being the same priority as these other things. Because, I mean, you mentioned some more today. I think we all would love to see expanded highlights, expanded studio. I mean, I'm open to more ideas on the studio. To me, it only makes sense to be able to go to the studio or to see the ticker if I'm in a game. But a few guys have said, well, why can't I see it when I'm not in a game? And I'm thinking, what would you see? Because I don't know. So to me, that's a lower priority too. But if it is something you guys, if you guys think of more things, throw them my way because I'm in the planning phases.
Well, it's a visual game.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Unlike the other sims on the market, which have some visuals, I mean, the draw to this is that it is so visual. And that it does everything else under the hood that the other games do. But, going to the studio, if you want to watch, a 4 or 5 minute highlight reel and not have to flip through, or maybe you want to just play that your game is on the West Coast and you just want to go through and, well, what did I miss or there? Or if you want to go through and have the Thanksgiving days or those Saturday games, it's like, okay, so my favorite team is, let's not say the Dallas Cowboys because we've heard a lot about them tonight. Let's say that your favorite team is the Rams, and so you're coming into it, and obviously your home games are going to be late, either 4:05 or 4:25. What else happened? Especially back in the 80s when Atlanta was in your division. Or New Orleans. So you might have San Francisco, New Orleans go at it at 1 o'clock, and you want to be able to see what happened because they would know.
That's right.
So that would be, one of the reasons. Or you could be like the New England Patriots and just be on prime time all the time. And
when you win 6 Super Bowls, I mean, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh says, "Welcome to the club."
First of all, yes,
Gary wants a hockey game, and I agree. So
when I was young and full of hope and everything, I thought I would eventually have a baseball game, a basketball game, and a hockey game. Now it's all I can do to keep up with football.
Yeah,
but. Gary asked a great
game
question.
That people want.
Huh?
It's because you built a good game that people want. You keep improving on it, and you listen to your customers. You listen to it. You can't always give them what they want, but you at least take the time to consider it. And that's beautiful. That's you've developed a fan page just from that. This guy actually listens to us.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He at least considers trying to do it. Or if he can't do it, he'll tell us it's not in the cards.
Yeah, I'd like to encourage everybody who gives me suggestions, be sure to check out next year's games because odds are you're going to see some of your suggestions in there.
I do have one I'm going to throw out again.
Sure.
I don't know how this would be received. I mentioned it before because we were talking about layers with doing the Fog Bowl.
Right.
Take out of the game the color signal, the chroma, and black and white. So if you're doing 1940s, 1950s, maybe some of the 1960s, you're watching it in black and white.
Can I get some cigar smoke to waft across the screen as we do?
What's that, Ron?
Little cigarette smoke across the screen as you're watching in black and white.
Oh, I love that.
If you're able to implement video, which is something we had talked about, little crinkles like it's old film.
Can we have the crowd clapping like wicked fast?
That's right. Give a wave.
You remember all the black and white from the crowds like.
That's right. So, Mike, I actually asked that question on the Cocos forum, and nobody had any ideas. One guy has made one suggestion that I'll look into something, so I'm going to look into that. And now Gary asked a question, and I think that is a big question. I want to improve,
ratings.
Yeah, because in career
put that up
play,
again so we can
That
read
one?
that.
Yeah, because
hold on. Gary writes, not sure if you've talked about it, but I would love to see some improvements to the team ratings.
Yeah.
Part of the offseason, sometimes it takes work to get things like defensive stamina and red zone built up.
it really does. I this is another one of those things where I'm going to get with the beta testers, and Gary's one of them, and let's brainstorm this, because I'm thinking, because currently what happens is it's a net zero. If you want to train defensive stamina, you got to give up something else, because my thinking was you only got so much time at training camp. Well, what if I gave more points to teams that finished worse the previous season?
Right. Oh, so like the draft.
Exactly. So that, so I mean, that may be at least a good effort. We could at least try and see how it works, right?
Yeah.
So that's one idea. And because there's two things you can do in career at the very end of the off season. You can have training camp, which is the team ratings, and then you can have player training, which is where you pick a few players and put points. Like maybe I want to try to improve Staubach, and if I pick that name again, I want to try to pick Jim Hart. Okay, and it would randomly maybe improve his ability on short passes. So yeah.
Will your starting tight end be able to date starlets?
Yes. That's one guy actually said I should throw in some off-field stuff to the game that affects the game, like maybe one of your starting quarterback's drunk, or maybe somebody says something really stupid in an interview and now your whole morale's down. I'm not going to do that at this time.
What about Max McGee being hung over and then having to be the star in Super Bowl I? That really did happen.
The touchdown pass.
Yeah.
The very first one, if I remember correctly.
That's a great point. And, of course, we have Joe Namath. I mean, he was a party guy, but he showed up for that game, didn't he?
He did.
There's a great story.
You could have him wearing pantyhose in the 68 Super Bowl.
I was thinking the same thing.
There's a great story of one of the New York writers who was just bebopping around downtown Manhattan the morning of the AFL championship game. This happens to be going through and seeing Namath stumble out of some club.
Oh, my gosh.
5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, jeepers, really?
I didn't know that.
Apparently he played that game against the Raiders quite hungover, and he somehow got it together and, won that game.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it wasn't the Super Bowl, but the AFL championship game.
Wow.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Those stories back then, yep. They can't do that stuff now.
Almost
but back
as
then.
good as Lenny
Now it'd all
Dawson.
be on your phone, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Not as good as Lenny Dawson drinking the Fresca, smoking a cigarette at the half of that first Super Bowl.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll wrap things up here. We want to thank everybody that joined us here. And this was actually episode 200 of the Digital to Dice podcast. As we move into we're already in year 5 right now, Ron. Right? We're in year 5, and we had terrific guests on tonight. We had Kerry Batts, we had Mike in the truck, and we talked Pro Strategy Football 2024, which has really been the only game I've been able to play since I've had my whole solid torn up over here. Studio A and Studio B were kind of a wreck for about a month, but I did manage to play some football games, and it got me through. I got to say, it got me through a tough time because when things are torn up and I had to take everything on this half of the basement and bring it this way, and it just disrupted everything, and it was chaotic, and I was stressed out, and I got to sit and the only thing I couldn't do cards and dice, but I could play things on the computer, and that football game come out just at the right time, and I'm having a blast with it. And so I'll always remember this 2024 version is the one that got me through my whole problem down here with the basement. So we want to thank you guys for joining us here on episode 200. We want to thank everybody that joined in.
Yeah, thank you so much.
On the chat as well. Carlos, thank you so much. Lee, thank you so much. for all the nice words, and everybody that joined us here tonight in the chat room. So ways to get a hold of us here as we round out the episode 200. Digital2dice.com is the website. 978-751-DICE is a way to send us a text. We may not read it on the show. Digital2dice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digital to Dice, and we have a pretty active group over there, and we posted the link to today's live stream. We were live on YouTube, by the way, in case you're listening to the podcast version of this. We were live tonight on September 30th, 2023 with Kerry and Mike here talking Pro Strategy Football, and so if you're listening to the podcast version, this was live, so you can go back and see all our smiling faces here on the YouTube channel here. I do have some software that might block out Ron. I'm not sure. We'll have to double check. I'll just put like the little Skittles over the top of them there, you know what I mean? So be like the witness protection program. We talk to Ron here, but we can't show his face, you know.
Behind the music version of this podcast will be later on. And Charles, I've already got my interviews lined up. Okay.
SDG says the AI has gotten better. Used to be able to destroy the AI, but not anymore.
Actually, I played that kind gentleman in a game. We did a live stream on his channel.
Oh, nice.
And this was years ago, and he said, I got to be the 83, I have to be 83 Washington. So I'm like trying to think, well, I don't want to take the Raiders Super Bowl. I said, well, let me take Miami. And he destroyed me live. Oh, I was laughing because I was getting beat so bad. And then my defense finally showed up at the very end, but it was way too late. But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, don't make the game any more difficult. Or if you do, put a couple different sliders or check because where it is right now, I am having a blast with it. And there's other football games I play that I can't get a first down to save my life, and I don't play those games because they're just not fun. I don't know enough about the game to do that, but in this game, I run, I draw play, screen pass, short pass. I mix it up, and I go with the feel of it, and I have somewhat success in the game, which makes it fun for me. And when you're when you're 3 and out every time in a football game, it's like, click, go in the next game. I'm going to play hockey. You know, so anyway. But anyway, thank you so much, guys, for coming on episode 200. All
Thank you.
Stay with us here. We'll have a little after party, but we're going to sign off right now. And thanks, everybody, that tuned in. Ron, thanks for joining me on episode 200.
As always.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.